I think the future of local news is the networked model. I don't know that you're going to have these big organizations that employ 100 reporters or 100, ad reps. I think you're going to have a lot of small organizations that are going to take off not just community niches, but maybe local dining niche and local sports and I think you're going to see those kind of get stitched together in a way from a business model. I think there's going to be a lot of confederations and not necessarily these big boys in town. I mean, the big boys in town were buttressed by a business model that will never exist again. Sort of local monopoly where getting into the business requires owning a printing press. I mean, those days are over. Anybody can get in with, a couple of, $20. You can basically, buy your way onto the internet. And then after that, it just becomes this meritocracy where if you do good work, people will find you, hopefully, and if you do bad work, people will not. So I think the next 10 years are going to be this kind of march toward more of a confederation of good sites doing good things and fewer of the really big boys. Even daily papers like the ones Digital First have will have to continually narrow what they're going to cover. They're not going to be able to cover everything. I think you might see even mid-sized metro papers in 10 years are covering like government and prep sports and whatever. They might not have a lot of long-form features. They might not be able to do the investigative work they do today, although I hope they do. But if they don't, others will jump in and fill that breach. And I think that's what you're going to see is a much smarter melding of sites. When we did TBD, for example, we didn't go in with the idea that we need to cover a whole bunch of things and we need to do it better than the Post or better than WTOP. It was like, what's not being covered? Because we can work with anybody in this ecosystem. We can partner with them. We can point to them. What is nobody doing that we can do? And let's take our few resources and put them in those gaps. And I think you're going to start to see a lot more of that kind of mapping. Let's fill these 3 gaps and let the others keep what they're doing. It's really hard inside these companies. I mean, it's the Clay Christensen, right? It's the innovator's dilemma. Is you're inside a company that's fighting for its life because its main source of revenue has been declining now for 15 years, and in sort of an increasing pace. And at the same time, you're trying to innovate over here. And I just think keeping those two things going simultaneously is very hard. I think as Larry was saying on the panel, I mean, Gannett's doing it so far. USA Today is doing it, so every one of those companies is different. But I think still culturally it's very hard for people to make the push into this new thing when they're fighting sort of this fire over here. I mean, the way somebody described it is you're asking somebody to describe what kind of trees are lining the road while there's a car that's just jammed on the brakes in front of them. At some point your focus is going to be on avoiding the accident in front of you and not noticing all the stuff on the side. And I think that's what a lot of these companies struggle with, which is how do you balance those two needs to evolve and to survive. Yeah, I mean, I think where we are in the huddling for warmth phase of journalism, where working together is essential to our survival. And if we live in the old world, like a lot of big news organizations have been in, where they don't point to anybody else, they don't partner with anybody else. Their attitude is like we're the only game in town because, and the example I was using earlier was we've had people at our paper say, why are we linking to the local public radio station when we have no idea how they sourced their story or whether that story is accurate? And my response is usually, did you call AP and Reuters and confirm the sourcing in every one of the 20 stories you ran in the paper today from those? I mean, at some point, if you don't think you can trust, if the local public radio station is giving you some reason not to trust them, so be it. Short of that, I mean, I think the idea is we're going to have to trust each other a little bit more, and if that partnership doesn't work out, then it'll end. But if we all go off on our own and say we're not going to link to anybody, we're not going to work with anybody, you're going to find you in a snowbank in 20 years frozen solid. I think you all have to figure out how to take each other's strengths, leverage them, and as a group we can all survive if we do that. But it's really hard for a lot of media companies to do that. They've been trained to hate the competitor, hate all the competitors, and to laugh at their misfortune, and I just think we have to get over that.